This is HOA outplayed. They wanted control. Karen yelled that the evidence list was sealed, and that was final. You just earned yourself a re-inspection, Rachel snapped, jabbing her highlighter at the notice in her hand like it was a loaded weapon. I stood in the hallway outside the Boundary Oaks Estates Association records room in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, sweat already running down my back even though it was only 9 in the morning. The heat wave had been brutal for 3 days straight, and tempers were rising faster than the humidity. Rachel Morgan, safety committee chair and the person who had made my life hell 3 years ago, was blocking the door to the file card I needed. She had a reflective safety vest thrown on over her white light jacket, and she was waving a laminated policy sheet in the other hand like she was directing traffic at a disaster scene. I work as a building maintenance technician for a property management firm, and I know every rule in the book and every loophole that comes with it. I also know when someone is lying to my face, and Rachel had been lying since the moment I submitted my records request 2 weeks ago. The original harassment case had targeted me and 2 other homeowners in 2022. Someone had filed identical violation complaints against all 3 of us on the same day, claiming we had unpermitted satellite dishes that blocked sight lines. The complaints were bogus. None of us had satellite dishes. The notices cited a policy that did not exist. When we pushed back, the complaints vanished from the portal overnight, and the board told us the matter was closed. No explanation, no apology, just gone. I figured it was a clerical error or a prank until last month, when I got a new notice in the mail. Same violation, same fake policy, same demand for an immediate fine, except this time the date was backdated to 2021, and the amount had tripled. The letter claimed I owed dues from a lien that was never filed, and if I did not pay within 10 days, the association would send it to collections and bar me from the common areas. That was my trigger. I fired off a records request the same day, asking for copies of all complaints filed against my address, the full board minutes from 2021 through 2022, and any correspondence involving my name. The law gave them 10 business days to respond. On day 9, Rachel sent me a 2-sentence email denying the request and citing a policy about sealed evidence lists during ongoing enforcement actions. There was no ongoing enforcement action. The case was 3 years old. I called the management company, and the receptionist told me Rachel had marked the file as active again 2 weeks earlier, the same week I submitted my request. That was my first clue something was wrong. I showed up at the records room this morning because the association is required to allow owners to inspect non-confidential documents during business hours. Rachel was waiting for me in the hallway when I arrived, and she was already angry. "You do not get an opinion, you get a fine schedule," she said, her voice echoing off the cinder block walls. "I am here to inspect public records," I said, keeping my voice flat. "I submitted a written request, and you denied it without cause. So now I am here in person." Rachel stepped forward and planted herself between me and the file cart. "The records you want are part of a sealed enforcement package. That means no access until the case is resolved." "The case was closed 3 years ago," I said. "You reopened it 2 weeks ago without notifying me. That is not enforcement. That is retaliation." "Your camera does not matter. My minutes are the truth," Rachel snapped. I did not have a camera on me yet, but she had just told me she thought I did. That was clue number 2. She was worried about being recorded, which meant she knew what she was doing would not hold up under scrutiny. "I need to see the complaint file," I said. "If there is a lien, I need the filing date and the recorded document number. If there is a violation, I need the photos and the inspector report. That is the law." Rachel slapped the laminated sheet against the wall. "The law says I can seal evidence during an active investigation. You are under investigation right now. You do not get to see anything until I say so." Behind her, I could see the file cart. It was the kind with 3 shelves and a handle, and the middle shelf had a stack of folders clipped together with a big binder clip. I recognized the format. Those were proxy forms, the kind the board used for annual votes. Rachel had been pressuring neighbors to sign complaints for months, calling it community support, and those proxies were part of how she did it. If she had gotten people to sign proxy complaints without telling them what they were signing, that was fraud. "I am not leaving without documentation," I said. "If you will not let me inspect the file, I will file a formal complaint with the management company and copy the state attorney general." Rachel laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. Go ahead. The management company already knows. They approved the seal. That was clue number 3, and it was the one that made my stomach drop. If the management company had approved sealing a 3-year-old case without notifying me, that meant Rachel had convinced them I was a problem owner. It also meant she had help, and that help was coming from inside the company that was supposed to be neutral. I did not argue, because I already had something in my pocket she did not know about. I turned and walked back down the hallway. Rachel called after me, but I did not stop. I had a meeting in 40 minutes with my supervisor, and I was already on probation for attendance. One more late arrival and I was done. That was my time pressure. I could not afford to lose my job, but I also could not afford to let Rachel bury me under fake fines and a phantom lien. I got in my truck and drove straight to the management company office on the east side. The lobby was empty except for the receptionist, a younger guy named Marcus who had been helpful on the phone. I asked to speak to the property manager assigned to Boundary Oaks. She is in a meeting, Marcus said. Can I take a message? I need to file a formal complaint about evidence tampering and records access denial, I said. I need it on the record today. Marcus looked uncomfortable. He glanced at the closed office door behind him, then back at me. I can leave her a message, but it might be a few days before she gets back to you. That is fine, I said. Just make sure it is logged with a timestamp. I left the office and headed to work. My phone buzzed twice on the way. The first message was from Rachel, sent to my personal email. It said I was now subject to additional reinspection fees for failing to comply with the records room appointment. The second message was from the management company, a form letter saying my complaint had been received and would be reviewed within 30 days. 30 days. Rachel could do a lot of damage in 30 days, and she knew it. I got to work 6 minutes late. My supervisor was waiting by the time clock. He did not say anything, just looked at the clock and then at me. I clocked in and got to work. I spent the rest of the day installing a new HVAC filter bank and running diagnostics on a walk-in cooler. Every time I checked my phone, there was another email from Rachel. She had sent me a revised fine schedule, a notice of non-compliance, and a scanned copy of the sealed evidence memo with a big red stamp across the top that said access denied. By the time I got home, I was exhausted and angry. I sat in my truck in the driveway and stared at the house. It was a small ranch on the edge of Boundary Oaks, and I had bought it because it was affordable and close to work. The HOA fee was reasonable, the neighborhood was quiet, and the rules were straightforward, or at least they were supposed to be. In reality, Boundary Oaks was the kind of community where leadership treated neighbors like suspects during disputes, and Rachel was the worst of them. I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. My next-door neighbor, Alan, had been living in Boundary Oaks for 12 years, and he was tired of Rachel. He had told me more than once that she had run off 3 board members in the last 2 years by making their lives miserable with paperwork audits and procedural complaints. Alan was calm, methodical, and he had kept every HOA document he had ever received. If anyone had a paper trail, it was him. I walked over and knocked. Alan answered in a flannel shirt and reading glasses. He took one look at me and sighed. Rachel again? Yeah, I said. She sealed the evidence list on a case from 3 years ago and will not let me see the file. I need to know if you still have your copies of the 2022 complaint notices. Alan stepped back and motioned me inside. I have everything. Come on. We went into his home office, and he pulled a 3-ring binder off the shelf. It was labeled HOA Correspondence 2021 to 2023, and it was stuffed with sheet protectors. He flipped to a section marked Complaints and Violations and pulled out a clear sleeve. Inside was a notice identical to the one I had received 3 years ago. Same format, same fake policy, same vague threat about sightline obstruction. I got this in May 2022, Alan said. I called the board, and they told me it was a mistake. 2 days later, it disappeared from the portal, and I never heard about it again. Did you keep the envelope? I asked. Alan reached into the back of the binder and pulled out a business-size envelope with a Boundary Oaks return address. The postmark was clear, May 14, 2022. The notice inside was dated May 10, 2022. That matched the timeline. But then Alan pulled out a second envelope, and my stomach dropped. This one came last week, he said. The envelope was identical, same return address, but the postmark was from July 2024. The notice inside was also dated May 10th, 2022. Same fake policy. Same complaint. But this time, the notice included a handwritten note in the margin that said final warning and a case number that had not been on the original. Rachel backdated it, I said. She printed a new copy of the old notice, added the case number and the warning, and mailed it out like it was a follow-up from 2022. Alan nodded. She is doing it to everyone who pushed back the first time. I talked to the guy 2 streets over, and he got the same thing. She is building a fake paper trail to justify fines and liens. That was the smoking gun. Rachel was not just reopening old cases, she was fabricating evidence and using the management company to legitimize it. If I could prove that, I could blow the whole thing open. But I needed more than 2 envelopes. I needed the original complaint file, and I needed to know who had filed the complaints in the first place. I have a plan, I said, but I need you to be a witness. Can you come with me to the next board meeting? Alan closed the binder. When is it? Thursday night, I said. 7 o'clock at the clubhouse. I will be there, Alan said. But you need to be ready. Rachel is not going to let this go quietly. I know, I said. That is why I am not going in quiet. I spent the next 2 days gathering everything I could. I pulled my own HOA correspondence, my payment records, my portal login history, and every email I had ever received from Rachel or the management company. I also filed a second records request, this time asking for the proxy vote logs from the last 3 annual meetings and any vendor contracts related to towing or violation enforcement. I sent the request certified mail with a return receipt, and I copied the state attorney general's office and the county clerk. Rachel responded within an hour. Another denial, this time citing a new policy about bulk requests requiring board approval. The policy did not exist 2 days ago, but now it was laminated and posted in the clubhouse lobby. I took a photo of it with my phone. The policy was printed on plain paper with no date, no signature, and no board resolution number. It was fake, and Rachel had made it up on the spot. That was escalation step 1. She had moved from sealing old evidence to inventing new policies to block me. I knew escalation step 2 was coming, and I did not have to wait long. Wednesday afternoon, I came home to find a bright orange notice zip-tied to my front door. It was a fabricated notice with altered dates and recycled photos. The notice claimed I had an unpermitted fence extension that violated setback rules, and it included 2 photos. One photo showed the side of my house. The other photo showed a fence that was not mine. The fence in the photo was chain link. My fence was wood. The photo was from a different property, and Rachel had used it anyway. The date on the notice was June 15, 2024, but the photo metadata said it was taken in March 2023. I knew because I checked the reflection in the photo. There was snow on the ground. We had not had snow in Milwaukee since April. I called Alan. He came over, looked at the notice, and shook his head. She is panicking. This is sloppy. Good, I said. Sloppy means mistakes. Mistakes mean proof. Thursday morning, I got a call from the management company. It was not Marcus this time. It was the property manager, a woman named Linda who sounded tired and annoyed. She told me Rachel had requested an emergency compliance hearing for Thursday night, and I was required to attend. If I did not show up, the board would rule in absentia, and the fines would be automatic. I will be there, I said. Bring any documentation you want the board to consider, Linda said. You will have 5 minutes to present. 5 minutes. That was barely enough time to introduce myself, let alone walk through 3 years of fabricated complaints, backdated notices, and evidence tampering. But it did not matter. I was not planning to play by Rachel's rules. I spent the rest of the day at work running through the plan in my head. I had the envelopes. I had the metadata. I had the fake fence photo. I had the proxy forms clipped together with a big binder clip that I had seen on the file card. And I had one more thing Rachel did not know about, a full email chain with headers showing Karen and the management company coordinated the harassment. That was my trump card. I had gotten it 2 months ago when I filed a public records request with the county for any emails between the management company and the HOA board. The request took 6 weeks to process, but when it came back, it included a thread between Rachel and Linda discussing how to handle problem owners who ask too many questions. The thread specifically mentioned my name, Alan's name, and the other homeowner from 2022. It also included a draft policy memo about sealing evidence during active enforcement, dated 2 weeks before Rachel had used that exact language to deny my records request. The email proved Rachel and Linda had coordinated the records denial, the backdated notices, and the fake policies. It also proved the management company was not neutral. They were actively helping Rachel cover up the harassment. I was not going to mention the email at the hearing. I was going to save it for after, when I submitted the packet to the HOA attorney and the state licensing board. But the existence of that email gave me leverage, and I was ready to use it. Thursday evening, I drove to the clubhouse. Alan met me in the parking lot. He had his binder and a folder with his own copies of the backdated notices. We walked in together. The meeting room was set up with a long table at the front and rows of folding chairs facing it. Rachel was already there, sitting at the center of the table with 2 other board members flanking her. Linda was sitting off to the side with a laptop. There were about 15 other homeowners in the audience. Most of them were older residents who came to every meeting. A couple on the left side of the room were watching like it was a show, whispering to each other and pointing at Rachel. Rachel called the meeting to order at 7 sharp. She went through the standard agenda items, then moved to new business. She looked directly at me. "We have an emergency compliance matter involving a property at 418 Ridgeline Court," she said. "The owner has repeatedly failed to respond to violation notices and has obstructed the records review process. The board is recommending immediate fines and a lien filing." I stood up. "I would like to respond." "You will get your 5 minutes," Rachel said. "Sit down until I call you." I stayed standing. "I have documentation that directly contradicts what you just said. I want it entered into the record now." Rachel's face went red. "You will sit down, or I will have you removed." One of the other board members, an older man named Tom, leaned forward. "Let him talk, Rachel. That is what we are here for." Rachel glared at him, but she nodded. "Fine. 5 minutes. Starting now." I walked to the front of the room and set my binder on the table. I opened it to the first page, which was a side-by-side comparison of the 2 envelopes Alan had given me. I handed copies to each board member and to Linda. "These are 2 copies of the same violation notice," I said. "One was mailed in 2022. One was mailed in 2024. Both are dated May 10, 2022. The second notice includes a handwritten warning and a case number that did not exist in 2022. That is fabrication of evidence." Rachel snatched the page out of Tom's hand. "That is not fabrication. That is a follow-up notice. The original case was never closed." "Yes, it was," I said. "I have portal screenshots showing the complaint was marked resolved in June 2022. I also have emails from the management company confirming the matter was closed." I pulled out the next set of pages and handed them around. Rachel's face went from red to purple. "You are misrepresenting the timeline," she said. "Those screenshots are out of context." "No," I said. "They are timestamped. And they match the emails. You reopened a closed case without notifying me, backdated the notices to make it look like an ongoing issue, and then denied my records request to cover it up." The room was dead silent. The couple on the porch were leaning forward now, fully locked in. Linda was staring at her laptop screen like she was trying to disappear into it. I flipped to the next section of the binder. "This is a notice I received 2 days ago claiming I have an unpermitted fence extension." The notice includes a photo of a chain-link fence. I do not have a chain-link fence. I have a wood fence. The photo is from a different property, and the metadata shows it was taken in March 2023, not June 2024. I handed out copies of the fence photo with the metadata printout. Tom looked at it, looked at Rachel, and set it down on the table without a word. Rachel stood up. "This is a waste of time. The board has already reviewed the file and made a determination. The hearing is a formality. You can appeal if you want, but the fines stand." "Actually, they do not," Alan said from the back of the room. He stood up and walked forward with his own folder. I got the same backdated notice last week. So did 3 other owners on this street. You are running a harassment campaign, Rachel, and you are using the management company to make it look legitimate. Rachel pointed at Alan. You are out of order. Sit down. If you are enjoying this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more HOA Justice Tales. Tom held up his hand. Rachel, let him finish. Alan set his folder on the table and opened it. Inside was a stack of proxy forms clipped together with a big binder clip. I found these in the file cart at the records room last month, Alan said. They are proxy complaint forms. You have been getting neighbors to sign them without telling them what they are for, and then you are using them to justify enforcement actions. That is fraud. Rachel slammed her hand on the table. Those are confidential board materials. You stole them. I did not steal anything, Alan said. They were on a cart in a public hallway. You left them there. The room erupted. People were shouting questions at Rachel. Tom was trying to call for order. Linda was typing frantically on her laptop. Rachel grabbed the gavel and banged it 3 times, raising it like it settled everything, but nobody stopped talking. This meeting is over, Rachel yelled. Everyone out. No, Tom said. He stood up and took the gavel out of her hand. This meeting is not over. Rachel, you need to step out. Now. Rachel stared at him. Her face was bright red, and sweat was running down her neck despite the air conditioning. She looked at me, then at Alan, then back at Tom. She grabbed her reflective safety vest and stormed out of the room. The door slammed behind her. Tom sat back down and rubbed his face. Okay. Let us take a breath. Linda. Can you pull up the complaint file for 419 Ridgeline Court? Linda clicked through a few screens, then stopped. The file is marked sealed. By who? Tom asked. By Rachel, Linda said. 2 weeks ago. On what grounds? Tom asked. Linda scrolled down. It says active enforcement. Tom looked at me. When did you get the first notice? 3 years ago, I said. May 2022. It was marked resolved in June 2022. Rachel reopened it in July this year without notifying me. Tom turned to Linda. Unseal the file. I want to see everything. Linda hesitated. I need board approval to unseal. You just got it, Tom said. I am the vice president, and I am ordering you to unseal the file right now. Linda clicked a few more times, and the file opened. She turned the laptop so Tom could see the screen. He scrolled through it for a minute, then stopped. He looked at me, then at Linda. There is no inspector report in here, Tom said. There is no photo log. There is no original complaint form. It is just a template notice with a handwritten case number. Linda did not say anything. Who filed the original complaint? Tom asked. Linda scrolled up to the top of the file. It says submitted by staff. Staff? Tom said. What staff? Linda clicked on the name. Rachel Morgan, Safety Committee Chair. The room went silent again. Tom closed the laptop and looked at the other board member, a woman named Sandra, who had not said a word the entire meeting. Sandra, did you know Rachel was filing complaints under the staff account? Sandra shook her head. No, that is not allowed. Staff complaints have to be signed by an inspector. Tom looked at me. I owe you an apology. This should not have happened. I appreciate that, I said. But I need more than an apology. I need the fines reversed, the lien threat withdrawn, and a formal investigation into how many other owners have been targeted the same way. Tom nodded. Agreed. Linda, pull every complaint Rachel filed in the last 3 years. I want a full audit. Linda looked like she was going to argue, but she did not. She just nodded and started typing. I sat down next to Alan. He leaned over and whispered, You got her. Not yet, I said. This is just the start. The meeting wrapped up 20 minutes later. Tom scheduled a special session for the following week to review the audit results and vote on new evidence handling procedures. He also announced that Rachel was suspended from all committee duties pending the investigation. The motion passed unanimously. As people filed out, the couple from the porch came over. The woman smiled. That was the best meeting we have been to in years. I drove home feeling like I had just run a marathon. I was exhausted, but I also felt lighter than I had in weeks. Rachel was suspended. The fake complaints were being audited. The fines were on hold. It was not a full win yet, but it was progress. But Rachel was not done. Friday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, and a man's voice said, "This is Officer Daniels with Milwaukee PD. I am at 418 Ridgeline Court responding to a harassment complaint. Are you the homeowner?" "Yes," I said. "What complaint?" "The caller claims you have been stalking her and threatening her safety," Officer Daniels said. "She says you showed up at her workplace yesterday and confronted her in the parking lot." "That is a lie," I said. "I was at an HOA meeting last night. There were 20 witnesses. I have not been anywhere near her workplace." "Can you come outside?" Officer Daniels asked. "I would like to talk to you in person." I went outside. There was a Milwaukee PD cruiser parked in front of my house, and a uniformed officer was standing on the sidewalk. He was older, maybe mid-50s, with graying hair and a calm expression. He nodded when he saw me. "You the homeowner?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "What is this about?" "Rachel Morgan filed a report this morning claiming you have been harassing her," Officer Daniels said. "She says you followed her to the grocery store yesterday and yelled at her in the parking lot." "I did not follow her anywhere," I said. "I was at work until 5, then I went to an HOA meeting at 7. I can show you my time card and the meeting minutes." Officer Daniels pulled out a notepad. "She also says you have been sending her threatening emails." "I have not sent her any emails except formal records requests," I said, "and those went to the management company, not to her personal address." Officer Daniels wrote something down. "Do you have any history with Miss Morgan?" "She is the HOA Safety Committee Chair," I said. "She has been filing fake violation complaints against me for 3 years. Last night, the board suspended her after we proved she was fabricating evidence. This report is retaliation." Officer Daniels looked up from his notepad. "Do you have documentation?" "I have a binder full," I said. "Bring it," he said. I went inside and grabbed the binder. When I came back out, Officer Daniels was talking on his radio. He finished the call and took the binder from me. He flipped through the first few pages, stopped at the envelope comparison, and read the notes in the margins. "This looks like a civil dispute," Officer Daniels said. "I am going to document your statement, but I do not see anything here that supports a harassment charge. If she wants to pursue it, she will need to file in civil court." "Can you include the meeting minutes in your report?" I asked. "I need a record that I was not anywhere near her workplace yesterday." Officer Daniels nodded. "I will attach them. Do you have a copy I can take?" I pulled the meeting notice out of the binder and handed it to him. It had the date, time, and location printed at the top, along with a list of attendees. My name and Alan's name were both on the list. Officer Daniels folded the paper and put it in his notebook. "I will write this up and send a copy to the DA's office. If Miss Morgan files another report, call me directly. Here is my card." He handed me a business card, got back in his cruiser, and drove off. I stood in the driveway holding the binder and trying to process what had just happened. Rachel had filed a false police report to intimidate me. She had done it the morning after the board suspended her, which meant she was panicking. That was good for me, but it also meant she was desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. I called Alan. He answered on the second ring. "Rachel just filed a false police report against me," I said. "What?" Alan said. "When?" "This morning," I said. "She told the cops I followed her to the grocery store and sent her threatening emails." "It is complete fiction." Alan swore. "She is trying to flip the script. If she can make you look like the aggressor, she can claim the board investigation is retaliation." "Exactly," I said. But the cop did not buy it. He took my statement and left. "I am documenting everything just in case." "Good," Alan said. "I will do the same. If she tries this again, we will have a pattern." That afternoon, I got an email from Linda. The subject line said Audit Update. The email was short. The board had reviewed Rachel's complaint filings for the last 3 years and found 47 complaints filed under the staff account without inspector signatures. 32 of those complaints were identical template notices with only the address and date changed. 18 of them were filed against owners who had previously challenged board decisions or filed records requests. The email also said the management company was conducting an internal review and had placed Rachel on administrative leave from all HOA-related duties. Linda apologized for the delays and the procedural failures, and she said the company was implementing new evidence-handling protocols to prevent similar issues in the future. It was progress, but it was not justice. Rachel was on leave, but she had not been removed from the board. The fake complaints were being flagged, but there was no mention of refunds or lien reversals. And the management company was reviewing itself, which meant there was a good chance Linda would get a slap on the wrist and nothing else. I needed to push harder. I needed to go over their heads. That meant the HOA attorney and the state licensing board. And that meant it was time to deploy the trump card. I pulled up the email chain I had gotten from the county records request. It was a 10-message thread between Rachel and Linda, dated from March through June of this year. The messages discussed how to handle owners who were asking too many questions, how to justify sealing evidence, and how to draft policies that would discourage records requests. The thread specifically mentioned my name, Alan's name, and the other owner from 2022. One message from Linda said, "If we mark the file as active enforcement, we can delay access for up to 90 days. That should be enough time to clean up the discrepancies." Rachel replied, "Perfect. Let us use that language in the denial letters." That was coordination. That was proof the management company was not neutral. And that was enough to trigger a state investigation if it was submitted to the right people. I drafted a formal complaint and attached the email chain, the backdated envelopes, the fake fence photo, the proxy form stack, and the audit summary Linda had just sent me. I addressed it to the HOA attorney, the State Real Estate Licensing Board, and the County Consumer Protection Office. I sent it certified mail and emailed copies to all 3 offices. Then I waited. Monday morning, I got a call from the HOA attorney. Her name was Jennifer Park, and she sounded furious. "I just received your complaint packet," she said. "I need to meet with you and the board president this afternoon. Can you be at my office at 2? "I can," I said. "Good," she said. "Bring everything you have. And do not talk to anyone at the management company until after the meeting." I showed up at Jennifer's office at 1:55. It was a small suite in a downtown office building, and the waiting room was empty except for Tom, the board vice president. He looked exhausted. "Have you talked to Rachel?" I asked. "She is not responding to calls," Tom said. "Linda says she has not been to the office since Friday." Jennifer came out a few minutes later and waved us into a conference room. She was younger than I expected, maybe early 40s, with short hair and a no-nonsense expression. She had my complaint packet spread out on the table along with a laptop and a legal pad covered in notes. "Let us start with the emails," Jennifer said. "Where did you get these?" "I filed a public records request with the county," I said. "They released the email chain as part of the HOA board correspondence file." Jennifer flipped through the printouts. "This is bad. This shows the management company actively conspired with a board member to obstruct records access and fabricate evidence. That is a breach of fiduciary duty and possibly fraud." Tom leaned forward. "What does that mean for the association?" "It means the board needs to terminate the management contract immediately," Jennifer said. "And it means Rachel needs to resign from the board, or you need to remove her. If you do not, the association is liable for everything she did." "Can we remove her without a vote?" Tom asked. Jennifer nodded. "If the board president calls an emergency session and a majority of the board votes to remove her for cause, yes. But you need to document the cause. That is why I needed to see this packet." She turned to me. "I am recommending the board reverse all fines and penalties associated with Rachel's complaints, issue formal apologies to every affected owner, and conduct a full audit of the association's finances. If Rachel was filing fake complaints, there is a chance she was also manipulating the budget." Tom rubbed his face. This is a disaster. It is, Jennifer said, but it is fixable. The question is whether the board is willing to do the work. We are, Tom said. What do you need from us? Jennifer pulled out a checklist. I need a board resolution terminating the management contract. I need a second resolution removing Rachel from all positions. I need signed affidavits from every owner who received a backdated notice or a fake complaint. And I need access to the association's bank records for the last 3 years. I can help with the affidavits, I said. Good, Jennifer said. Get me as many as you can by the end of the week. The meeting wrapped up an hour later. Jennifer walked us out and shook my hand. You did good work here, she said. Most owners would have just paid the fine and moved on. You fought back, and you did it the right way. I left the office feeling like I had just crossed the finish line of a race I had not known I was running. The board was moving forward with the removals. The management company was being cut loose. The fake complaints were being reversed. It was not perfect, but it was real progress. Wednesday night, the board held an emergency session. Rachel did not show up. Tom called the meeting to order and moved to remove Rachel from the safety committee and the board. The motion passed 4-0. The board also voted to terminate the management contract and hire an interim management company to handle day-to-day operations while they searched for a permanent replacement. Thursday morning, I got a call from Linda. She sounded defeated. I wanted to let you know the management company has decided not to contest the termination, she said. We are also conducting an internal review of my role in the records denials. I will not be handling Boundary Oaks after this week. Good, I said. You should not have been handling it in the first place. Linda did not argue. She just said, I am sorry. Then she hung up. Friday afternoon, I got an email from Jennifer. The subject line said outcomes. The email said the board had formally adopted an evidence-first rule requiring all violation complaints to include inspector reports, photos, and signed complaint forms. The board had also reversed all fines associated with Rachel's fake complaints and issued refund checks to every affected owner. My check was for $1,200, which covered the fines I had paid under protest 3 years ago plus interest. Jennifer also said the state licensing board had opened an investigation into the management company's role in the records denials and the evidence tampering. Linda had been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. Rachel had resigned from the board and the safety committee, and she had agreed not to hold any HOA leadership position in Wisconsin for 5 years. The last line of the email said, the association attorney reviewed Rachel's complaint logs and found she had quoted board minutes as justification for at least 10 enforcement actions. When we checked the actual minutes, they contradicted her claims in every case. That funny karma beat was the final nail. Rachel had spent years using selective minutes and phantom policies to bully owners, and in the end, her own words had buried her. The final piece came 2 weeks later. I got a letter from the new management company saying the board had completed the financial audit. The audit found Rachel had used the staff complaint account to generate fake violation fees, which had been deposited into the association's general fund and then transferred to a reserve account she controlled. The total amount was over $18,000. The board had referred the matter to the Milwaukee County DA, and Rachel was under investigation for embezzlement. I did not know if charges would be filed, but it did not matter. Rachel was gone. The harassment campaign was over, the fake complaints were reversed, and the board had implemented real safeguards to prevent it from happening again. Alan and I celebrated with beers on his porch. He raised his bottle. You took her down. We took her down, I said. I could not have done it without you. Alan grinned. Next time someone tries this, we will be ready. There will not be a next time, I said. Not here. Not anymore. 2 months later, I was sitting in my truck after a long shift when I got a text from Tom. It was a photo of a new sign at the clubhouse entrance. The sign said Boundary Oaks Estates Association, and below that it said all owners have the right to inspect association records during business hours. No exceptions. Tom's message said, "Thanks for making us better." I smiled and put my phone away. The cold case was closed. The culprit was caught. And my neighborhood was finally a place where the rules applied to everyone, not just the people without power. Stay safe, and I will catch you in the next one.